Have you ever wondered why you wake up tired even after sleeping all night? It's not just the body, it's the mind. A mind at silent war that never rests, that insists on reminding you of what could go wrong, that drags you to places you never wanted to go. Thoughts that arrive uninvited like thieves invading your peace and leaving everything out of place. Anxiety doesn't scream, it whispers. It whispers that something is wrong, even when everything seems right. Have you ever felt this? Have you ever faked a smile while inside you were begging to run away? Have you ever found yourself rehearsing conversations in your head, as if the world would explode if you said the wrong thing? Have you ever wanted to disappear, not because you hate life, but because you can't stand surviving anymore? Some people call it a fad, others say it's just a phase, but you feel. It's an invisible weight that no one understands, a constant rush, even with nowhere to go, a desperate urge to escape from something you can't even name. And then you ask yourself, why am I like this? Why does it feel like my mind is against me? Is there something wrong with me? Maybe no one has answered this to you. Maybe you've learned to swallow, to hide, to smile, and move on. But the truth is, you are not alone, and you are not broken. There's a reason for this internal chaos, and as strange as it may seem, it's trying to protect you, but in the wrong way. Anxiety is like an alarm system that goes off and won't shut off, and every time you try to ignore it, it screams louder. But what if, just what if, she was trying to tell you something important? What if, instead of running away from this discomfort, you listened? What would your anxiety reveal if you stopped fighting it? That's the question Jordan Peterson leads us to face, not with easy answers, but with raw truths. He doesn't tell you to think positive. He doesn't say that everything will pass. He invites you to look at the chaos and cross. And that's what we're going to do here. This video is not a medicine. It's a mirror, a reflection of what you may have avoided for so long, but also an invitation to understand, to face, to transform. So, before I continue, I need to ask you, are you willing to listen to what your anxiety is trying to tell you? Are you ready to look inside, even if it hurts? Because if it is, this could be the beginning of the end of this invisible prison, not the end of anxiety, but the end of her loneliness within her. Take a deep breath. Let's go together. There is a pain that no one sees. There's no cut. There's no blood, but it burns like an open wound in the soul. It is the pain of existing. When existing becomes too heavy, you wake up with your heart racing. You don't even know why. He gets out of bed as if he were carrying tons of weight on his shoulders. And everything, absolutely everything, seems too much. Brushing your teeth? Difficult. Reply to a message? Impossible. Looking someone in the eye and pretending everything's fine? An Oscar-worthy performance. But inside you feel like you're breaking into pieces too small to pick up. And the cruelest thing is that no one notices. Because anxiety is silent. It consumes you from the inside, while on the outside you still smile, still produce, still show up. You go to work, to class, to the market. But every step is an effort. Every gesture is an attempt to hide the internal collapse. And what hurts the most is the constant fear of being a burden. You start to believe there's something wrong with you that is weak, that others can live, and you can't. But let me tell you a truth that maybe no one has told you yet. You are not alone. This pain you feel, this anxiety that seems to swallow you alive, is a silent epidemic. Millions live this, and almost no one talks about it, out of shame, for fear of appearing fragile, for not wanting to worry those you love. And so, we all remain isolated, within the same invisible prison. That's why this video exists, not to give you ready-made answers, but so that you recognize yourself, so that you realize that what you feel is not crazy, it's human. Jordan Peterson speaks to this with brutal clarity. Life is suffering, and denying it only makes it worse. He doesn't say this to scare you. He says this because he knows, from his own experience, that when we accept the weight of existence, we can finally learn to carry it, not easily, but with dignity. You are not weak because you feel too much. You are alive, and maybe no one has taught you how to deal with that intensity yet, but that could change, and it starts here, now. First step, stop blaming yourself. You didn't choose to feel anxiety. You didn't ask for this, but you can choose what to do with it now. You can choose to wallow in silence, or you can start listening to yourself. You can continue to believe it is a mistake, or begin to understand that there is a message in there, an urgent message, an attempt by your body and mind to show you that something needs to change. And yes, it will be uncomfortable, but it can also be liberating. Pain doesn't have to be your enemy. She could be the sign, the beginning of the path back to yourself. You are here. You are reading this, and that says a lot. You haven't given up yet. Even if you're scared, even if you're tired, you keep going. That, in itself, is courage. And courage is all we need now. Jordan Peterson didn't come into this world to give comfortable answers. It came as a rupture, a turning point. At a time when many offer superficial solace, Peterson delivers confrontation. He doesn't soften the pain. He names it. He doesn't hide chaos. He exposes it. And that's exactly why so many people connect with what he says. Because deep down, we already know. Easy answers don't work. Empty optimism does not heal. It will pass, doesn't save. Peterson doesn't promise immediate relief. It offers something much deeper, clarity. He looks you in the eye even through the screen and says, "You are suffering, and it makes sense. Do you feel small in life?" He says, "Life is monstrously complex, and you are human. Do you think you're failing because you're afraid?" He replies, "Fear is inevitable, but running away from it is what destroys you." This brutal honesty, which many shy away from, is what makes his voice so necessary. Because when someone finally validates you with the truth, instead of calming you with lies, something in you awakens. You realize you're not crazy. It's not broken. It's alive. And chaos is part of the package. Peterson speaks of anxiety as a legitimate symptom, as an intense response to a life that has lost direction. He invites us to look at this chaos not as an enemy, but as a calling, an invitation to rebuild from scratch if necessary. And this proposal for internal reconstruction is not something he pulls out of thin air. It is based on decades of study, in years of clinical care, and in your own personal experience going through the darkness. Peterson faced his own abysses, and it was there, at rock bottom, that he learned to climb back out. He doesn't talk about pain from a safe place. He talks about the pain, and that's why every word he says resonates like a punch and a hug at the same time. So if you're here right now, if something in you felt like you needed to hear this, I ask you something. Subscribe to this channel. Like this video, not because it helps me, but because this content can help someone else. Maybe someone like you who just needs a spark of truth to not give up. The algorithm doesn't understand pain, but you do. So, if this message touched any part of you, return the favor. Not out of obligation, but for recognition. Because when we find a voice that translates what we feel, it's almost like finding shelter in the middle of a storm. And Jordan Peterson has been that shelter for millions. Maybe now, it can be for you too. The biggest lie you've been told about anxiety is that it is just a chemical imbalance, or worse, freshness. How many times have you heard this? Just relax. Seal on the bright side. You think too much. Stop the drama. These phrases seem innocent, but they are poisonous. They reduce deep pain to a whim. They silence real suffering. And the worst part, they make you doubt yourself. You start to wonder if you're overreacting, if maybe you deserve to feel this way, if you are really being weak. But the truth, and this part will hurt, is that these ideas were built to keep you in check. Because a person who is too anxious to act doesn't bother. She doesn't impose limits. Don't question. It doesn't change the system. And the system loves it. Loves to see you self-censoring your pain. He loves watching you try to fit into a mold that was never made for you. Loves when you are silent. Jordan Peterson speaks to this clearly. Anxiety often arises when you are living a life that is not yours, when your actions deny your values, when your days are a reflection of fear, not truth. And do you know what's most perverse? It's just that they tried to make you believe that the problem is you, but it isn't. The problem is the disconnection. You have been disconnected from who you are, of who you could be, and it hurts. It tears you apart inside. This creates anxiety. So let's break this belief now. Anxiety, noise a defect. Anxiety is alert. It's your psyche screaming that something is wrong, that you're pretending too much, cheating on yourself too much, swallowing too much, and you endure because you are strong. But being too strong for too long breaks anyone. The other dangerous belief is the idea that you have to get over it, overcome as if it were a finish line, as if there was a magical moment when you wake up healed, light, whole. There is no such moment. What exists is the process, the daily construction, acceptance that anxiety may not go away, but you learn to live with it without being controlled by it, and that is freedom. Not magic, but real. Peterson teaches this, that true strength lies in recognizing weakness and still carrying on. That courage is to keep walking, even when trembling inside. So the next time someone tells you that it's just a matter of controlling your mind, you can calmly respond, I don't need to control, I need to understand. Because control comes from understanding, and understanding only comes when you allow yourself to feel. This is the truth that no one told you, and now that you know, you can't go back. Have you ever noticed that in the midst of the storm of anxiety, there is a silence that you avoid? It's that moment when everything seems to stop, and it's just you, face to face with your own thoughts. This silence can be terrifying, because it's in it that the true causes of your restlessness are revealed. Jordan Peterson challenges us to do something many shy away from: listening, internally, not what we are used to, distracted by external or automatic noises. I'm talking about that deep listening, the kind that requires courage to look inside without running away. Anxiety is a cry from the soul for you to pay attention. She wants you to ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What part of me is hurting and doesn't want to be seen? What am I hiding from myself? This call can come disguised as fear, uneasiness, even panic, but it is an invitation for you to become an observer of yourself, an explorer of your own inner world. And here's the key. Self-knowledge is not a magic trick. It's not something you gain overnight. It's a slow, painful, and liberating process. Peterson talks a lot about taking responsibility. And to take charge, you first need to know. Know what moves you, what paralyzes you, what sustains you. But to do this, it is necessary to silence external voices. Close social media, turn off the TV, stop the frantic racing of the mind, and listen. Listen to the body, listen to your heart, listen to the emotions you've always avoided naming, because anxiety lives there, beneath the surface, in the stories you tell yourself, in the wounds you haven't healed, in the truths you haven't dared to face. Therefore, this moment of internal listening is sacred. It's the beginning of the journey to finding your center again. You can start small, 1 minute a day, one conscious breath, one silent question. What am I feeling right now? No need to judge, nor seek quick answers. Just allow the truth to come out. This is the first step to true healing. Jordan Peterson reminds us that running away from discomfort is the surest path to greater suffering. Facing the shadow, what you avoid, is what opens the door for transformation. And it is precisely this internal listening that gives you the map for this journey. When you begin to understand yourself, you will realize that anxiety is not an external enemy. She is part of you. A warning, a sign for you to wake up to yourself. You don't have to fight her with brute force. It needs to welcome, it needs to understand, it needs to integrate. And when that happens, anxiety loses its power to control you. She transforms. From a desperate scream, it becomes a whisper that guides you. But to get there, it takes courage. Courage to face what is hidden, courage not to run away. This inner listening is what will take you from chaos to clarity, from darkness to light. And the best part, it's not a lonely path. There are tools, people, and ideas that can help you navigate this journey. But the first step is yours. Be willing to listen to yourself. Be willing to feel. Be willing to be real with yourself. And ultimately, that's the biggest revolution you can make. Because when you know yourself, you become stronger. And when you become stronger, anxiety stops being a sentence. She turns into a chapter. A difficult chapter, yes, but a chapter you can write. There is a part of you that you avoid at all costs. a part that you hide, that you ignore, that you reject. Jordan Peterson calls this part the shadow. The shadow is everything we don't want to admit. Our fears, weaknesses, dark impulses, our most intimate flaws. It lives inside us in the deepest, darkest place of the psyche. And paradoxically, it is this very shadow that contains a vital force that you do not yet know. But here's the key point. Denying the shadow doesn't make it go away. She grows in silence. It feeds on your repression, and when you least expect it, it takes over your life. When you try to run away from anxiety, you are running away from your shadow. When you repress what you feel, you are burying part of yourself. And that's why Peterson insists. The path to freedom begins by facing the shadow. This is not shallow self-help talk. It's a real fight. A call for courage, to face what you are afraid to see. The shadow is not your enemy. It's a part of you that suffered, that hid to survive. And only by bringing that part into the light can you truly heal. Peterson describes this with a powerful metaphor. Imagine a sleeping dragon inside you. Ignoring the dragon doesn't make it disappear, but facing it with courage and awareness makes it a guardian, not a threat. This dragon represents your fear, your pain, your anxiety. When you decide to look at it, with respect and without running away, you begin to tame this creature. And then, for the first time, you become the master of your own life. This process is painful. It will require you to feel things you have avoided for a long time, but it's a small price compared to what you get, because by facing the shadow, you regain control. You begin to choose your responses instead of being held hostage by your fears. Peterson also points out that the shadow is not just dark. It brings with it hidden potential, talents, strengths, creativity that were buried because you were afraid to express yourself. When we integrate the shadow, we not only reduce suffering, we also release powerful energy to grow. This is the secret that few dare to tell. It's not about eliminating the shadow. It's about accepting it, learning from it, and using it to strengthen yourself. And at that moment, anxiety loses its power as an enemy and becomes an ally, because it stops being a desperate cry and becomes a signal, a sign that you are waking up to who you really are. So if you're ready for this journey, I want you to know two things. First, that you are not alone. This struggle is universal, and finding the courage to face it is an act of heroism. Second, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to win all at once. Every small step, every look within, is already a victory. And here's an invitation. If this idea made sense to you, share, like, leave a comment, because transforming shadow into strength is a collective journey. We don't have to walk alone. Imagine your mind is an old house. It is full of dark rooms, locked doors and dusty windows. Some of these rooms you visited yesterday, others you never dared to open. Anxiety is like a dim light that starts flickering in this house. At first, it's easy to ignore. You pretend everything is fine, but that light persists. It flickers on your face, on your chest, until one day the whole house seems about to collapse. Now imagine that this house is your life, and what you call anxiety is not an invader, but a warning. That dim light, the alarm you try to turn off, is actually a call to action. You can keep running, locking doors and trying not to hear the alert, or you can take a flashlight, open each room, dust it off, look at what's hidden. It's not easy. Some rooms are filled with painful memories, old fears, shadows of the past, but it's inside that you'll find what you need to rebuild. When you start cleaning these rooms, the house changes. The air becomes lighter, the walls firmer, and you, for the first time, feel like you can breathe inside it. Jordan Peterson uses similar metaphors to remind us that chaos and order live side by side, that to find balance, we need to face the chaos, the dark rooms, instead of running away. Anxiety is the signal that there is chaos waiting to be organized, and this organization starts within you. Every step into these rooms is a victory, a conquest against the fear of confrontation. The old house can be transformed into a fortress, a house that doesn't imprison you, but protects you. But for that, you need to have the courage to look inside and understand that fear, pain, anxiety are not monsters on the outside. They are longtime residents of your home, parts of you crying out for attention and care. Ignoring that flashing light may even seem safer in the short term, but in the long run the house will collapse, and with it, your peace, your health, your life. So, I want you to imagine now, what would happen if, for the first time, you chose to face the light? What if instead of running away, you open that door you've always avoided? It is not a simple path, but it is a real path, and it starts with one step, a step you can take today. You don't need to light every room at once, but lighting just one is a start. And when you do that, anxiety stops being an invisible enemy. She becomes an ally, a light that guides you towards reconstruction. It's not magic, it's hard work, but it's liberating. And you are not alone in this house. Have you ever been so tired that you thought you couldn't go on? So overwhelmed by anxiety that the only way out seemed to be to give up? This moment, as dark as it is silent, is where many stop. But it is also the point where true transformation begins. Jordan Peterson tells us that crisis is the great teacher, that at rock bottom, when everything seems lost, there's a chance to start over. And it's not a magical new beginning, full of empty promises. It's a new beginning made of difficult choices, of facing fear head-on, taking responsibility for taking care of yourself even when you want to run away. At this moment, you can allow yourself to weaken. You can feel the fear, the pain, the confusion, but you must choose not to be defeated by them, because anxiety, as cruel as it may seem, is not the end of the story. It is a chapter, a hard one, yes, but a chapter that can be overcome. The turning point comes when you realize you are not a hostage to your thoughts, that what holds you back is not the anxiety itself, but your reaction to it. When you change the way you look at suffering, it loses power. Peterson calls this meaning through suffering, that by carrying the weight of life with purpose, even chaos gains meaning. And that is exactly where true strength is born. Not the strength that denies pain, but the strength that acknowledges it and still decides to move on. You don't need to have all the answers. Don't even wait to be ready. The turning point is simply accepting what is and acting in spite of it. It's a conscious choice to keep going, step by step, even when the journey seems endless. And this moment can come in many forms. A look in the mirror that doesn't lie, a sincere conversation that allows for vulnerability, or even a simple act of self-care that says, I deserve it. Don't underestimate these small gestures. They are seeds that will grow in your transformation. Jordan Peterson reinforces that suffering is inevitable, but senseless suffering is optional. You can choose to make sense of your pain. You can choose to build a path where there was once darkness. And this choice is not for the faint of heart. It is for those who have the courage to look inside and say, I will face my shadow. I will embrace my chaos. And in that moment, even if the fear remains, hope begins to blossom. Not an empty hope of promises, but the real hope of someone who knows that they at least tried, because trying is already an immense act of courage. So if you're there, reading this and feeling the weight of anxiety, know that this moment, however difficult it may be, can be the beginning of something new. You are not alone at this turning point, and what comes next is up to you. You need to understand something that no one talks about when it comes to anxiety. It doesn't disappear like magic. It doesn't disappear with a snap of the fingers, and there is no instant happy ending. Real transformation, the kind that lasts, is slow. It's made of small steps you take even when it feels like you're going nowhere. Jordan Peterson emphasizes this like no one else. Healing is not a state, but a process. And the process begins with acceptance. Accept that yes, anxiety can be present, that you will have good days and bad days, that the shadow will insist on appearing. But even so, you can move forward. This promise of transformation is not a fairy tale. It is an invitation to the stark reality. And that's why it's powerful. Because when you stop waiting for the perfect solution, the weight falls off. When you stop wishing for complete healing, you start living. You learn to cope with anxiety, not eradicate it. It is a learning process of self-respect, to understand your limits, to celebrate every little achievement. Transformation happens when you change your perspective. From, this destroys me, to this challenges me. From, I can't take it anymore, to, I'm still here. And this change is not magic, it's hard work. Peterson talks about the importance of establishing small orders in your life. Make the bed, take care of your diet, maintain a routine. These simple gestures are like anchors in the storm. They give meaning and control, even when everything seems off-kilter. And it is in these details that transformation begins to blossom. You don't have to overcome anxiety all at once. You just have to be willing to take the next step, and another one. The promise I make to you here is not that the anxiety will go away, but that you can live in spite of it. You can find moments of peace, you can regain control of your mind, you can little by little build a life that is worth living. This is the real transformation, not the one sold in quick fixes, but the one that is born from the daily struggle. And it's a fight worth fighting, because in the end what matters is not the absence of pain, but the presence of courage, the courage to continue, to get up, of not giving up, even when everything inside you wants you to stop. So I challenge you to embrace this transformation, not because it's easy, but because it is possible. You are not alone on this journey, and with every step, you are getting stronger. Before I close, I want to leave you with something Jordan Peterson says, something that cuts deep, that isn't comfortable, but that is true. He says, "You are not what you feel. You are what you choose to do, despite how you feel." This phrase is not just a provocation, it's a call to action. A call for you to make the conscious decision to act, even when anxiety suffocates you, even when fear wants to paralyze you. Because what defines who you are, it's not the overwhelming emotions that run through your mind, but the choices you make in the midst of this turmoil. Jordan Peterson knows the weight of those words. He doesn't give them away to minimize his pain. He offers them to you so you can find your power. You might be thinking, "But I can't take it anymore. How can I act if all I can feel is this?" And that question is legitimate. But acting does not mean doing great things. It means choosing a small step, choosing to face a moment. Choose not to give up, even if your body asks you to give in. It is in this space between feeling and acting that true freedom resides. Because acting, even when fear is present, is an act of courage, and courage is what builds meaning. Peterson says that meaning comes from responsibility. When you take responsibility for your life, for your struggle with anxiety, you create purpose, and purpose is the antidote to despair. Without purpose, anxiety becomes a bigger monster. With purpose, it becomes a challenge to be overcome. This choice is not simple, it's a constant battle, but it's the only way to not get lost in the darkness. What Jordan Peterson teaches us deep down is that you don't have to wait for anxiety to pass to take action. You can act in the middle of it. You can be firm even when your hands are shaking. You can take a step even when the ground seems to disappear. And it is this decision that transforms suffering into strength. You are not what you feel. You are what you choose to do. Don't let anxiety dictate your actions. Take control. Take responsibility. Take charge of your life. And know that every small, courageous choice is a victory. A victory over fear, about the doubt, about pain, and in the end, about anxiety itself. This is the message I want to leave with you, not as empty advice, but as a truth that comes from someone who has faced chaos and found a way out. You can do the same, not alone, but accompanied by this conversation, by this community, by this journey, and the choice is in your hands. If you've come this far, it's because something inside you still resists. He still believes that it is possible to escape this invisible prison called anxiety, and that resistance deserves to be honored. Because deep down, the biggest fight you're fighting isn't against anxiety. It is against the loneliness it brings. It's against the feeling that no one understands, that no one sees. But I want to tell you now, you are not alone. Many people face this battle every day, and that's why the strength of a community is fundamental. Sharing what you feel, hearing similar stories, knowing that there are people who understand. This doesn't eliminate the anxiety, but it does ease the burden. I invite you to be part of this movement, to open up, to talk, to allow yourself to be vulnerable, not as weakness, but as courage. Because courage is recognizing your own fear and moving forward anyway. Here you are not being judged. Here you are being heard. If this video touched a part of you, share it. Share so more people can feel less alone. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Every gesture is a step towards breaking the silence that suffocates so many. And together we can create a space where anxiety isn't taboo, where pain can be discussed, where hope can be born. Because in the end, it's that human connection that heals. Not the easy solutions, not the ready-made phrases, but the look in the eye, the handshake, the "I understand you." This is the quiet revolution we need. And you can be a part of it. You don't have to carry the world alone. Let's walk together, one step at a time. And if you're there, feeling like this conversation is for you, I want you to know that I believe in you, that your fight matters, that you matter, and that the light you seek is already within you. It just needs to be found. So take a deep breath, take that first step, and know that here, you have a community ready to support you. Because together, we are stronger, and together we can transform pain into strength. That's the promise. This is the invitation. Do you accept?